I love passion. I love to see people who have passion. You were very young, but you had passion. And I love that. I saw passion in you and what you did. And I knew that at some point or another, you would do something amazing. And I said, I'm all in. I spoke life into you from the very beginning. I always encouraged you. And to this day, I think that greater things are going to come from what you're doing. And it's just a matter of you staying true to who you are. And you'll see. It'll be something that you don't even expect. Keep humble, keep working, keep your passion. And you're going to do amazing things.
I think I was stealing Coke or Pepsi from the limousine?
That's correct. That's correct.
At the wedding?
At my wedding, you had a little oversized suit and you filled it with Coca-Cola cans from the limo, which I had to pay for, by the way, but it's all good.
Got to ride in the limo and hang. That was fun. That was a lot of fun.
That'll be almost 32 years ago now, Fred.
Wow.
So I've known you for a minute.
For almost my whole life.
Yeah.
You know, I remember when you first got introduced to the family, very little, but it was seamless. It was almost like you became the family right away. There was no get to know you period. You kind of just came right in. Was it like that?
Yeah, I think so. I always wanted a big family, right? Mm. And I married into a huge family. You're familiar with our family. 10 brothers and sisters at the time. And all the cousins and all the people that came in the family. And it was just a joy for me. And continues to be, right? Sometimes, when we're trying to go to a restaurant and we have a party of 18, it's a hassle, right? But for the most part, it's just a lot of different blessings all over the place.
It's got to be kind of intimidating, though, isn't it? Like a little bit, because I'm thinking, okay, if I am about to meet my girlfriend's family for the first time, and there's 10 brothers or 10 sisters and 8 brothers or whatever, it's a big family. It's a lot of people to meet and a lot of people to impress.
Yeah, I think that it almost seemed like I knew the family already. It's weird. Irma and I have talked about this. I don't know if it's because Irma and her family have strong connections to Guatemala, and my dad's from Guatemala, but we had like the same cultural, the same almost habits and likes and dislikes. It was odd that I felt like I blended in pretty quickly. So my memory was right then. So I was a kid, but I got that. Yeah.
You have a lot of history, and there's a lot of history that I don't even know. I mean, my Uncle Dulio is an attorney. He's a lawyer, and he has his own law firm in the city of, is it Pasadena? Arcadia. And you've been doing this for a long time now.
30 years in October.
32 years, almost being married, 30 years it's almost like in that time, your life was pivoting towards really great things.
Yeah.
There's a lot of positive happening.
Yeah. I can almost divide my life into half times or quarters, should we say. I spent the first couple quarters of my existence kind of going in the wrong directions. Mm-hmm. And then the third quarter, which I think I'm in now, has been, kind of starting to live the best version of myself. But I still have a lot of improvement to go. I'm nowhere near what I want to do and what I want to be. But I'm definitely enjoying the process.
I was reading this book. I've been reading a lot of psychology books. The Middle Passage. And and there's not a lot of content about this. The middle passage, the in-between phase between, that first stage in your life where ego rules, and it's all about, the women and dating and what is your identity, how do you look to others? How do you fit in the world? Right. And then there's the second stage. And I believe the second stage is where a real, a boy becomes a man and he connects spiritually with, a bigger thing than himself. And it's the mission, and I think about my relationship with God. And I don't mean to get so deep, but this has been on my mind and I just want to let it, and I want to brush it by you. You know, when you're a kid and you open up that Bible and you read it, at least to me, it didn't really mean much to me. I didn't get it. You know, some of the stories were cool about Noah's Ark and, the highlight stories you can say, when they were in kid form.
Right.
But it was textbook to me and it didn't mean much until I got broken down. It was a 1, 2, 3 punch. I mean, I got stripped to the bone and it was almost like a rebuild from ground zero. Lost everything, almost everything. But it wasn't until I lost all of that, rebuilt, came back, and slowly came. It was like everyone I think is tested to their limit.
I think we've spoken about this before. You've had your kind of Job moments, right?
Yeah.
Where you lost everything. I remember when you were riding high.
You share the story of Icarus, and at that time I didn't get that either. And now I feel the most closest spiritually. Did that happen to you too?
Well, yeah, I think that I also had my beginnings were rough. I grew up in Delano, a small farming community in Central California, and I probably was the least to become anything. I was on a fast route to going nowhere.
Like what? Why? Was it because of the lifestyle you were living, or?
Yeah, it was just at the time in high school. I pretended to be a good athlete. I pretended to.
What do you mean pretended? Like?
Well, I mean, I played football, but I enjoyed parts of it. But I would get injured and I wouldn't try anymore.
Right.
And so I would just be on the team and just kind of go along with it. And it wasn't really my pursuit. I wasn't really. All my friends were jocks, and I hung out with them, but I really wasn't that much into football. I wrestled, and that was more my main sport.
Oh, you wrestled?
I wrestled in high school, but I wasn't very good. But I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the process. I enjoyed the one-on-one. I enjoyed the team effort. I've made some friends and some bonds that in football and wrestling that to this day, I have reunions and I meet a lot of my old school sports friends and people that I grew up with. But that was my life. I partied, I liked girls, and I played some sports. Mm. I started to find music, and that kind of helped me to kind of connect in a different way. And so I started to play with different styles of music back then, and so that took me in a certain route that started to evolve in a different way, other than just a dumb jock partying and chasing women, right? Mm-hmm. But I reached a point where I decided to go to school only because my dad gave me the options of working at the furniture store that I worked at my entire life.
That was the family business?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And so he said, you can either work here or go to school. And so I graduated from Delano High School, and it's a little embarrassing to say, but I literally graduated from high school early, a semester early, because they told me I was done and I completed all my credits, but I literally could not read or write more than probably an 8th grade level at that stage. Mm-hmm. And so I was embarrassed to find out that when I started junior college, I was tested and put in all these bonehead classes, English 60, math 60, reading 60. Everything was 60. And I later come to find out I'm in the basement of the library where all my classes were. And I come to find out that I was, at the bottom of the barrel. And it's because my skills, they were training me in high school to become a industrial arts major. Right. I took wood 1 and 2, advanced metal. I took all these industrial arts classes because that's where they kind of shoved every Hispanic towards, right? Mm-hmm. But the funny part is that I'm not very good with my hands when working in tools and stuff, even though I'm an industrial arts major, according to Delano High School. But anyway, I started from the scratch, from the bottom. I was reading off of a prompt on a computer that just had words passing by like tree and house
Wow.
and
So,
ladder.
you couldn't read like to that point?
I had to learn how to read again, or, it was funny because I started to do really well. One, out of embarrassment, because some of my other friends and people that I was carpooling with were all in English 1 and English 1A and math, advanced math and, calculus and algebra. And I was in the bottom of the basement learning the basics of reading and writing and arithmetic.
Embarrassment can be a good a motivator. Huh?
It was the greatest motivator. But what was funny about the whole thing is after my first semester, I got my grades and I got all straight A's because it was so easy. It was just basically being there and doing the simple work. I got all straight A's, and all of a sudden I'm a straight A student, right? And I'm like, oh my goodness, I guess I can do this, right? And so that kind of motivated me. The embarrassment of being, at that level, and then going through the process of learning the basics, and it kind of made me work even harder to succeed.
Yeah.
And so that's when I started to kind of turn on to education. I also started to, at that time, become very interested in politics. I grew up in Delano. You see a lot of disparity, right? We see it all the time in day-to-day life, but in Delano, it's so much more marked. It's east and west. The railroad tracks, right? The famous tracks divide Delano like no other. It's the west side is the Hispanic side. Everything is different. The homes are more modest. It's all where most of the Latinos live. The resources, the parks, everything is just a lot less. And even the Catholic Church. There was 2 churches in Delano. One on the west side, which is Our Lady of Guadalupe, which is the church I grew up in. My parents brought me up Catholic, and I was very católico. I played music. I sang. I was an altar boy as a kid, and so all these things were going on in my life. But in Delano, you had that division, and on the east side of Delano, you had the nice homes, the nice parks, the nice church. St. Mary's was like this majestic white building and stuff, where Our Lady of Guadalupe was more rustic, kind of wooden, stucco kind of thing. And St. Mary's was a beautiful place where everybody wanted to get married and everybody wanted to have their special events there. But it was the other side of the tracks, right? So I grew up seeing all this. I went to school, back in the day when I went to school with some of the richest kids in the state, some of the sons and daughters of the landowners.
Wow. That
were wealthy. They had these estate homes that I used to go to, right? As being little kids, growing up, I went to elementary school where the kids would invite me to their birthday parties and we'd be like, this is a ranch, And I also went to school with some of the poorest kids in the state, sons and daughters of the migrant farm workers. So I grew up seeing this disparity, and it always spoke to me. It always awakened a sense of, that's not right kind of thing, the justice side of me, right? And so that was a huge motivator for me to also pursue in my career. I started to get involved with the United Farm Workers and supporting farm workers movement. I started to get politically involved. At the time, Ronald Reagan, which you may not remember, but Ronald Reagan, I graduated high school in 1980, so that gives you an idea of... Well,
wasn't Reagan like one of the most well-liked presidents?
He was very popular, but he was very conservative and very... later on, history will tell you that conservatives hold him up as a good Reagan Republican, which in today's political climate, I think I'd go for Reagan. But back then, people identified themselves as a Reagan Republican.
Yeah.
But Reagan did a lot of things that were kind of underhanded, right? He had the Iran-Contra deal.
Oh, right.
He had monies for arms, for drugs, scandal, right? And he did a lot of things that were invaded countries, third world countries. as was the kind of the tenor of the time, right? But anyway, looking back now,
there's a lot. So even back then, even now, there's a lot of corruption everywhere. And it's like it's not. And it's crazy because everyone thinks it's because we live in such a bubble that it's just the U.S., but it's everywhere. It's everywhere.
There's no doubt.
And
there's no doubt. And part of the problem, I don't know how deep we want to get here, but
however you want.
In this continent, right, the Americas, right, which includes North America, Central America, where our families are from, and South America, right, the United States has set the tenor, right? And so, for example, I'll just give you a quick example of the U.S. role in creating the tenor of this since the last 60 years or so. In Guatemala, around the 1950s, they elected the first civilian president. Every president before then has been a military dictator, kind of, strong-armed kind of president, right? Well, in 1950s, they elected the first civilian president who started to talk about land reform, started to talk about, agrarian rights, started to talk about indigenous rights. And there was a lot of investment worldwide, but from the U.S. particularly, right? In the fruit company, they had a United Fruit Company, which controlled the banana industry, Chiquita banana, and they controlled all that in Guatemala, right? And so they controlled the politics, right? And they controlled the president. They paid the president. They gave him lands. They gave him all these benefits to be, running their businesses. And so it reached a point where the people of Guatemala kind of said, well, wait a minute, we want to run our own country. So they elected a president. That president served 4 years, and then they elected another civilian president. And he came in with even more ideas of trying to, be more progressive to try to help the Guatemalan people. Well, the U.S. didn't like that. And what did they do? They basically created the CIA, because it didn't exist at that time. And they went and they sent troops to overthrow that government. Literally overthrow a government, right? And they overthrew government and then set up their own, again, strongman, their own military dictator who ruled very heavily for the next, 40, 50 years to this day, right? But now there's a civilian president who ironically is the son of one of the original presidents in the 50s. Yeah. And so it's very interesting. Arevalo is his last name. But anyway, the U.S. is a great country. Don't get me wrong. But some of his tactics and ways of creating the first world means that we have to have a third world.
Right.
Right? A lot of people think, these third world countries, they're poor. Right? They're not poor. They have natural resources. They have human resources. Right? They have things to do there. But sometimes they're not allowed because of the economic situation that's been created. So, ergo, that's why there's so much poverty. And then there's corruption too, right? You speak of the corruption. It's true. In Mexico, there's, the drug cartels. In Guatemala, there's, corruption at a deep level. But it all kind of stems from the same mentality of those companies who are in Guatemala. They're still there. They're still making money in Guatemala. They're still making money in every country. So
the traffic situation needs to.
Oh yeah, there's no doubt. There's no doubt. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of people, a lot of cars.
Yeah, and I guess it's hard to build there because of the mountains and the geography of.
But I mean, they have access to a lot of the Central American countries that have access to both the Pacific and the Atlantic Ocean.
Oh yeah.
They have tremendous abilities for growth. It's just they need to get their countries organized, and get their countries on the go. But
so then why do you think you were drawn to the injustice of your hometown? I mean, well, I think everyone is aware of the injustice around them. Some people tend to gravitate towards, becoming a, police officer, some artists. But was it something pulling inside of you? Did you choose this?
Yeah. So my dad was heavily involved in the revolution in his country, and there was revolution there. So he was, in his 20s when all this went down, and he left his country out of both political and economic reasons and stuff. So my dad had a very unique influence over me. He loved this country, as I do, right? I'm sworn to uphold the Constitution as an officer of the court, right? I love this country. My dad also hated this country for what it did to his country, right? So I was able to really quickly and at a young age see the disparities, right? The way they treated farm workers, the way they treated poor people in this country, it really started to really speak to me. Speak to me in volumes, and once I started to learn, it's on. So anyway, I'm part of this country. This is my country.
Yeah.
I love the USA, and not so much the current administration, but it too will pass.
It's so funny because, and you say that it too will pass. Vladimir Putin was talking about, they're like, okay, what do you think of President Trump, becoming this or becoming that? Or what do you think of this other president? And he's like, look, the United States, every 4 years, new president, no problem.
Yeah.
It's like,
so yeah, I mean, and if, you've been following politics as much as I have, because I studied politics in college, and I was just, I still consider myself a political animal. I mean, I absorb everything I can read, everything I can see or hear, and I try to, I watch just as much Fox News as I do CNN. And if I've learned anything, is that this country has like a pendulum effect. It swings to the right, right, Reagan, and then it will swing to the middle, Bush, and then it will swing a little more left, Clinton. And then it'll go back and pull back to another Bush, and then it keeps on going back. It's a pendulum. Right now, we've swung to as far right as I think we have been, at least in my lifetime. And it's interesting. It's bringing a lot of people involved in politics now. You have more people voting, which is a good thing. And I've always said that if the majority of Americans want to go in this direction, let's do it. Let's see where it goes. I obviously, as a business person, right? I always want the economy to do well, right? I'm always, and we've learned things from the Bible, like you always pray for people who are in authority, no matter if you disagree with them or you don't. You pray for them, right? And I've done that more than anything. I think more than any other president, I've prayed for Donald Trump more than anyone, to have his heart opened up, to have his mind be clear of all this, the issues around him and stuff, and really start seeing what the American people are asking for, right? I think the American people are pretty much done with these raids that are happening, that are really, setting our country on a new course, right? They should do things in a I'm all for protecting our borders. I'm all for having people legally go through a process here. The people will speak, right? That's how every major movement has happened over the last,
I think, Dulio, but the issue is
years.
Like there's, the people who will speak, the smart ones, but sometimes the media isn't getting them. And the media tends to highlight the guy with his shirt off graffitiing, Union Square in downtown LA. Well, and he's, making Cirque donuts in a stolen police car.
There's no doubt that the attention is always given to the people who are screaming the loudest, right? And, I've always found that, I have a really good friend of mine who is, for about 30 plus years, we've been friends. And and he's very progressive, and he's like, we just gotta, go left of left, and AOC is not as left as he'd want to go, and Bernie Sanders needs to, and I'm like, well, country's not ready for that. The country's not ready to become socialist. The country's, and so we need to swing to the middle. I think the middle is where we do our best work as a country, and we can't, it's my opinion, in my opinion only, we can't swing one way to so much to the left in this response to this current movement. We can't move so much to the left that we lose a lot of our identity too. So, and then as a Christian, we want to believe that it's all in God's hands, right? And we can be informed. We can speak out against truth and justice. I think that's part of what being a Christian and being American is, right? You speak out truth to justice, and truth to power, and justice is something that we should all be interested in.
I don't know, probably not even a fraction of the politics, but there's so much deep level corruption. I almost feel like a world war has to happen for us to go back to it. We're too deep. The world is too deep, and people have just lost complete faith in government. And I think that's why there's such a big resurgence in church. Will there be good days again in our lifetime?
Well, I have to hope, and I pray for that, right? I don't think that we're that much of a doomsday. There's a lot of good in the world, right? You have to also put a couple of things into perspective. We here in California tend to live in a bubble, right?
Right.
We have some of the best weather. We have some of the best food, some of the best location.
There's no better Mexican food in the country than California.
Yeah. Well, some would argue that in Mexico, but yeah. But we also live in this this political and almost this mental bubble, right? If you get out of California and go into the middle of the country, or go east more, the Beltway and places like that, it's a different America, right? It's a different place. And so,
number one, people are nicer.
People are nicer, and people have a different set of values. And I think that when whatever party, I think that's one of the things that Donald Trump did very well, right? He spoke to the American people and at least made promises, right? Whether or not he's going to keep them all or not, and whether or not this bill is going to be effective or not, and it's going to help the middle class, the working class people. We'll see, right? I mean, but he sure did make a good case.
Are you talking about the big, beautiful bill?
Yeah. Well, I'm just calling it the big bill.
Okay.
We'll see. We'll see if it's as good looking as he says. You got to think about these bills. They're so enormous, right? It's not just like 12 pages, or these things are sometimes 300, 400 pages. Most of the people who voted for it don't even know what's in there, right? Or how it specifically is going to apply, right?
Yeah.
So a bill kind of has to air itself out and go through the process, and we'll see whether or not it affects Medicare and to the point where a lot of people lose their rights. We'll see their insurance. We'll see. So it's kind of right now. I think that the politics per se needs to come back to the people. The power needs to come back to the people, and we need to be better informed. And I think we need to. And it's funny because you have to kind of educate the public, and that's not what politicians do, right? They want reactionary people. They want people to react to something, an issue, right? Immigration. We want to make evil. The immigrants. He made a statement recently that really irked me. That he said 11 million people have come to this country, and they're all rapists and murderers and killers. Yeah. Like, oh my God.
Yeah.
What a statement to make, you know?
Yeah.
11 million people have come here from Latin American countries, but the majority of them, I would say 95% of them are good, hardworking people that have come here to do work a lot of people don't want to do. You know?
Didn't he revise something about?
He did. Farm workers, hotel workers, and that's a good thing. He's starting to, and that was as a response to they can't get anybody to pick up the vegetables in the fields.
Yeah.
They can't get people to clean their hotel rooms.
Right.
And so he's bending to reality, and so that comes at a price. Unfortunately, there's been a lot of people that have. There's some stories that you hear. Obviously, you hear a lot of the extreme stories on the media.
Yeah, like the Guatemalan guy who burned somebody was it New York or something? I keep hearing that story again, and I'm like, what a way to paint a picture.
There's a guy who, for example, has 3 sons who were Marines, right? And he was a gardener, and they picked him up. He has 3 sons who served in the military.
Yeah.
And he was in the process of, getting his papers in order. There's always backstories to everything,
Mm-hmm.
but just the stories. For example, I have a gardener
Mm-hmm.
that I've had for years.
Mm-hmm.
He's been my gardener for almost 20. I've owned my home for 26 years. I think he's been my gardener for like 25 of them.
26 years? Wow.
Yeah, I've been in Monroe for 26 years now. Anyway, he's a good guy.
Mm-hmm.
He's a good guy.
Mm-hmm.
He's, does the gardening for our neighbors who, and he has his routes, and he's just a hard worker. Put his family through and studying, and he's just, and now he's living in this constant fear where you see his face and it's just stress, never knowing what moment they're going to come down on him and stop him or come pick him up somewhere where he's working. And, it's this stress he's living under that I just like, oh my goodness. I pray for him almost all the time because it worries me that he's going to, just get abducted and, yes, he's undocumented. He should have taken care of his paperwork years ago and been in the process, but he hasn't. And he's one of those people that just come here to work, Yeah. But anyway, politics is crazy. I'm obsessed with it at times. My wife tells me not to, watch so much and consume so much material, but it's always been a part of my life.
Yeah.
Ever since I can remember.
It's who you are.
In junior college, even in high school, I kind of started to pay attention to stuff. But in junior college, and when I came to Cal State Northridge, it was 1980, 82 that I came to walk on to Cal State Northridge campus, and I didn't know anybody. I had an aunt and an uncle who lived near the university, and I came to stay with them and go there. And within 6 months, I found the Chicano Studies department.
Nice.
I got involved with MECHA, which is
I was a part of MECHA in high school.
There you go, MECHA.
That's right. That's cool.
It's a movement a student movement that is for Aslan, this mythical place, right? That doesn't exist. But anyway,
I remember there was a cute girl that I had a crush on. And that's why.
There you go. And I'm sure that
her name was Annika.
That was that's been the basis for a lot of people doing activity, right? To get involved. Yeah. But anyway, I thrived there. I did well in school. I became the chairman of MECHA.
Wow.
One of the largest MECHAs in the nation. Chicano Studies Department. I got a minor in Chicano Studies. I got professors Aruri Acuña and Raul Ruiz and Perez Sandoval, who were some of the most brilliant minds at the time, and their work is still being felt and stuff. And so I got trained politically under some of the best, and so that's when I think I was at my most radical. Okay, right? Okay. That's when I was involved in politics. I was all over it, right? And meanwhile, I was also starting to play in the mariachi.
Oh, okay.
So that was the balance.
So this was a good time for you.
I was loving life. I lived life to the fullest during those years.
How old were you?
I was 22, 23 years old.
Okay.
But I was also drinking a lot. I was also, doing other things.
Well, that comes with I guess that kind of momentum, though, doesn't it? You're young. And of course, you're going to, go to a bar and party or date or something like that. And it's, of course, that's isn't
There,
that kind
there
of part
was
of a man's dream?
there was parties all the time. We lived in near campus, and I stopped living in my uncle's house and got my own apartment. And
How was that?
I had kind of like a three's company, 2 girls from Delano and myself.
Yeah.
And it was cool. It was a good place.
Oh, so they bring their friends over. So you guys are always
that they were pretty chill. Both of them were pretty calm. They weren't really involved in, although they were Filipinos, Filipino Mexican.
Oh yeah.
So they weren't really that involved in politics and stuff, and they didn't really party that much either. But so it was still kind of calm with them.
Oh, good, yeah.
Then I went to go live with one of my buddies, and we lived in a house. That was disorder.
Oh, okay.
That was
that like Animal House?
That was where you wake up in the morning and there's bodies thrown all over the place, and you're like, "Who are you? Get out of here!"
Yeah,
you know? Kind of thing. And so that was probably the most the bottom point of where I was. Just.
How did you manage to have that party life, but also your education at the same time?
So I balanced it pretty well. My studying became easy to me. I learned how to play the game.
Okay.
Academia is a game that you learn how to play, and I became a master at it, actually. I could take any class and do minimal work and get a pretty decent grade. I could get a B, or if I really tried hard, I would get an A.
Well, see, I was always terrible in school, and I never figured out that. I mean, I guess. So, what is the game?
There's certain things, and I tell this to all the students that I speak to now, and I when I go to speak to in different places and where there's young people and students. There's a couple of things you got to do. One, you got to show up, right? You show up, you learn by osmosis, just by being in a room, right? But 2, sit in the front. Before this, I learned this. I used to be one of those back row guys who always sat in the back and, try not to.
Because if there's anybody weird like me, I feel like somebody's staring at the back of my head and makes me nervous. That's why I sit in the back. I'm telling you, that goes through my head,
Yeah. No. Well, I learned. I used to think I was cool, so I'd be in the back of the room.
Yeah. That's where all the cool kids.
And so, but I learned sit in the front, right? Why? Because you're closer to the knowledge. You're closer to what's going on. It's harder to miss things. When you're in the back, there's a lot of things going on.
Distraction.
A lot of distractions. So when you're in the front row, it's hard to. Plus, you make an impression on the teacher, professor, or whoever's teaching the class, right? They get to see you. They see that you have interest, right? Mm-hmm. And then follow them to their office or set up an appointment and talk to them. You'll be surprised. Teachers, professors, it's a lot of ego, right? They want to make a connection. They want to teach you something. They want to see that you've learned something. So the closer you get to someone and you kind of figure them out and ask them questions, what are you really looking for in this sociology class, So, and they'll give you so much information. Sometimes they'll just, in a conversation, they'll tell you, what they're looking for and how to write a paper or what's coming up on a test. And, you'll be surprised just by developing this relationship and, going to talk to teachers.
So in a way, you were learning politics even as a student.
I was very, I had to because I was so involved in stuff. I became their friends, and many of the professors at Cal State Northridge to this day, are friends of mine.
Oh, wow.
That I still.
That says a lot.
Yeah. Just, they were very political. They knew I was political, and so, they knew I was an active. They knew I was a member of the mariachi, so that gave me credibility. And so I also credit the fact of the stabilizing factors in my life at the time were the mariachi. We had our leader was a professor at Cal State Northridge. He just recently retired. His name is Beto Ruiz. And Beto was one of the first non-Catholic men that I really got to hang around a lot and got to see how he was. Mm. And that really, that kind of correcting factor really influenced me, kept me on check, helped me from not going over the edge. because I could have at any given time, but I always had to go to practice at Beto's house. I had to play at a gig with Beto, and so it was. God does things in very mysterious ways and sometimes very obvious ways. But He put the group, which are my brothers now, right? The members of the band are my brothers, and I was the youngest, and they were all a little bit older, more mature, right? One of the trumpet players was the best man at my wedding, they're all my brothers. We just.
So you had a lot of respect for him.
I did. 2 weeks ago, we just buried one of my brothers from the Mariachi Salon. He was one of Beto's oldest friends that they had started playing music together in the 60s. And so, it was very tough, one of the first of the group to pass. And so it was a very emotional time. But I credit them, and then I also credit my parents, right, for checking up on me and always keeping me real and stuff. So I made it. I made it through to law school. Once I was in law school, I got an apartment by my own. I had to leave that house because sometimes you got to get out of,
Yeah.
You kind of have to like cut off your hand,
right.
In spite of your face kind of thing, because I was not, in that environment, I wasn't going to get very far. And so I moved out. I got my own apartment and living on my own. And started to go to law school, and I really enjoyed it.
Did you pass the bar your first try?
No, God forbid. I don't trust people who do.
Yeah, because I'm one test away from getting my pilot's license, and I just like the bar costs. Well, the pilot's, this one costs $1,000. It's a 4-hour test, 2 hours ground of just verbally. It's a verbal, and then you go up in the plane afterwards. And you got to pass the verbal first before you can get in the plane, and it's just direct questions to you. It's $1,000, and I'm like, so I'm already assuming I probably will take that test at least 2 times at the very least. So I'm trying to make sure that I'm ready for that.
What you want to do is prepare yourself, right? And make the first time the best time. Now, if you have to take it again, obviously you take it again, and you learn from that experience. I, unfortunately, it was interesting because I had always done so well in college, in junior college, in college, and in law school, I did relatively well. Then I came up against the bar exam, which is a totally different animal. It's a 3-day bar exam in those days. Now it's 2 days. I took the test, and I was so cocky, and I got results that I failed. I was like dumbfounded. I'm like, oh my goodness. My dad didn't understand. He's like, what are you doing? You studied, what you didn't pass? And so I'm like, Dad, I don't know. And I'm like, all right, now I got to really buckle down. And I studied for the second time, and I ended up failing it again. And so I'm like, oh my goodness. I was really starting to question myself, whether or not I had it in me, whether or not I was already thinking, okay, what's the plan B here? I had the personality where I could work in a lot of different areas.
Right.
And I had already taken the test and was signing up to sell insurance with Farmers Insurance. And so I was going to become a insurance agent. So anyway, I took the test again, and I got sick or something. I remember I was deadly sick right before the test, and I think I had a fever during my first day of class on the third time I took it. So I didn't pass it because I think I walked out for 40 minutes to go throw up and stuff.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So I just wasn't feeling well that test. So that was number 3. And number 4, I forget what. Anyway, when I passed, I felt like I should have passed on other tests. I felt like I had done better on other tests.
Okay. On
the tests that I passed, I honestly felt like I hadn't done really well. And I was already preparing to study again for the last time, I told myself. But then they passed me. So the California bar, I mean, you can look it up. It's one of the toughest tests because everybody wants to practice law in California. They come from all over the nation. They come from all over the world. And they want to practice in California. Why? Because we have the 5th largest economy in the world, right? And Also, we have the entertainment center and all the the attractions of San Diego, LA, San Francisco.
Right. Yeah.
And so everybody wants to practice here. So they make this test. It's one of the only tests that's administered by attorneys to limit the amount of attorneys that come in each time it's given. It's given twice a year. And there's no rhyme or reason to it. It's not like there's a right or wrong question. Right? Even the multiple choice, you have 2 questions that are correct. The one's a better answer for a particular reason. And it's kind of subjective. It's not an objective test where there's a yes or no, right or wrong answer. In the essays, you could be right and write something 10 different ways. But if the grader doesn't see and doesn't come across to the grader the way he wants to see it, he's going to give you a 65 instead of a 70. And to them, that's no big deal. But to you, that's your life.
Yeah.
So it's a tough test. I mean, I respect anybody who's earned the right to take it.
Yeah.
And I respect most of those who passed it.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, just going up against that big beast in itself is respectable. It's a lot.
Yeah.
How much does it cost nowadays?
I think it's like $425.
That's it?
But,
why did I think it was more expensive?
Yeah, no, it's not that expensive. And you are aware that my son is currently struggling with the bar himself.
Right. Yeah,
He's taken it a few times, but he'll get it.
Here's a dumb question because I was never the scholar or the education type, but how do you study? How does one study correctly? Because like when I was studying, pilot school, it was, I'd read this, I'd read that. And then 15 minutes later, I'm like, let me take a break. Let me do this. Let me go back here again. And then it's so intimidating because it's so much information that I'm like, I don't want this to be my career, but I feel like I'm becoming a doctor. Like it's that much information.
Yeah. What you normally want to do is you want to have outlines. You want to go through the major reading and then highlight stuff, right? You read it and you highlight, right? Then you go back and you look at your highlights again and you reread that. And then you take your own notes and you form them into an outline. And so it's like, starting a plane, and, navigation systems, flight patterns. And so you have a category for each. And then you basically write your outline for each area so that you understand it and you can explain it to someone. So when you see it on a test, right, you say, okay, well, that's in this group period. And, I know this and this and this about that. So it's a lot of it's memorization, right? So you have to have a good memory, but there's systems to memorize things. You kind of have to really want it, and sometimes you have to be able to like sacrifice, right?
Yeah.
So if you're going to study for something, take 3 months and cut out everything else, right? Yeah. And say, okay, I have 5 hours to study today. I have to work, and then, I got 5 hours to study. Well, those 5 hours, phone off, TV off, music off, and for 5 hours, you're absorbing the material. Mm-hmm. And if you do that on a constant, for 3 months, you should make really good advances. Yeah. And then, you make it a thing where you're reviewing every time. You make note cards. Mm-hmm. You reviewing your note cards when you're just taking a little walk. You go to the gym, you're sitting there listening to a little lecture or outline.
You fully immerse yourself.
You immerse yourself.
Every way you can.
For 3 months, you sacrifice. Yeah. Now, that's what some people don't do for the bar exam. A lot of attorneys are working, and so they don't give it. I know people who have taken the bar exam so many times and haven't passed. I know people have given up from taking the bar exam.
Yeah.
And, they've just never really given themselves the full opportunity, the chance to pass it.
Do you know the percentage of the people who pass the bar versus don't?
They roughly have a passage rate of between 46 and 51% every time they take it.
Okay.
So it's offered twice a year.
Okay.
So that's roughly about half of the people are going to fail it.
Yeah.
Sometimes, like I remember the times that I took it, I would go and I'd sit down and someone would have a Princeton sweatshirt on, sitting right next to me. And I'm like, oh, great. Yeah. This guy went to Princeton and stuff. Yeah. But then I started thinking, this guy opened up the same books I did.
Right.
He's going to take the same test I do. So, obviously sometimes it helps when they have the best schooling from the get-go.
Right. It does. It does, though. Because I think of, the pilot world, their dad brought them up. Their dad had them on the yoke when they were 2,
Right.
So, their whole world. And here, I guess what I wrestle with is, what my main passion is. It's this.
Yeah, I remember you in high school in your garage.
Yeah.
I remember going, you would make, and I probably still have all those tapes, right?
Yeah.
Every single recording, every Friday night. I remember.
Yeah.
I remember how you started, and it started to sound really good. I remember thinking, wow, and you would take actual commercials and work them into your recordings and stuff. And I'm like, man, this guy is really passionate about this thing. That's why I always told you, go for it, Freddy. Yeah. Whatever happens, if this is what you want to do, go for it,
The only difference between you and me is I was always a bad student. Never really became a good one. You did. And now
I learned to play the game. Doesn't mean I was, I was never a good test taker.
Right.
I was never a bright, A student in everything.
Yeah.
Like, for example, math. I hated math. Well, what's interesting is that 40 years later, I love math. Math is the most interesting thing to me now, right? The perfectness of math, the way that the numbers and equations and algebra and calculus and, understanding how to measure, the absence of space in something, is something that I find so amazing. I'm hooked on this YouTube channel. It's this teacher who'll go through all these different lessons about compound fractions, about algebra, complex algebra problems, geometrical problems, geometry, and just trigonometry and calculus. Stuff that I wouldn't even know how to pronounce back in high school and that I wouldn't even dream of thinking about. Now, when I have no use for it, I find it fascinating.
Right.
I love math now. And I was told, and I've heard this, and I think Jaime Escalante, it's in our culture. The Mayans invented the concept of zero. Math is such an important concept in our culture, in our people, and I didn't know this, right? And so I was just scared of math because of a bad teacher, right? But now that this guy has such a soothing voice, and he's just like the complete opposite of that teacher, and I just find it so fascinating.
You seem to become passionate once I feel like the load is off of you, and you want to, you discover it, you become passionate about it.
Yeah.
In school, I was pressured to read the book 1984 by George Orwell. Any book. You could have put any book in the world. I'd go home. I wouldn't read it. I wouldn't read it. I'd go to Cliff Notes or copy off of a smart friend. And I didn't like reading until like my late 20s. And now I read a lot. And not just, mostly nonfiction, a little bit of fiction too, but a lot of books, deep psychological books of, not the fluff kind, and good. I love it. I love it. I love learning about the mind. I love learning about just how the mind operates. I just want to be a better, connector. I want to cut through the BS and just get straight to the, to the core of it, because a lot of people, they waste so much time with small talk, and I was never good at small talk, and, I guess rightfully so. But when you get to really know somebody without the fluff, you cut the fat and you just get to know them, man, it's pretty awesome. It is pretty awesome. But, do people connect the way they used to?
Yeah, I think that people have different levels, right? You're going to talk to a guy who, is used to just pounding beers, and you're not going to sit there and start talking to him about philosophical views
right.
And intellectual thoughts, processes. Yeah. You're going to talk to him about how the Raiders did and how the Dodgers, you're going to talk to him about stuff that he relates to. Right?
Yeah.
I think that's an important part of a well-rounded person is learning how to speak to anybody at their level.
Know your audience.
Know your audience, right? If you're speaking to someone who's way smarter than you, obviously you're talking to learn, right? And you're, trying to contribute and pitch in something that you may be able to contribute to. If you're talking to someone that just for the fun of it and you want to get deep, if it's because of someone that a friend or someone that you want to have that type of relationship, then those are the ones that you can really start talking about, intimate things, You can start talking about how, the feelings and how do you feel about your relationship with God and then you can start talking about.
I wasn't always like this. And I became this way, not by choice, but it was what I went through, and this is a result of that. Yeah. I don't know why. Maybe you do, but I became more philosophical, just deeper. And in some ways, I got to slow down, even with women. Like I'm single. So like, for example, I'll be at a restaurant or,
just go ahead and repeat that for the audience. Freddy is single.
And, where the old Freddy flirting or chasing would have taken place, and it's all fun, I start to, dive a little too deep. I guess I'm recalibrating after that fall for me, and I'm learning again. Go ahead.
So one of the things that I think that happens as you mature, right? And you're 30 something, mid 30s. And so, when you start getting to a certain stage, you start realizing things and you start seeking people of quality in your life. You've had quantity, right? You've run with the masses, right? But now you're ready to engage in intellectual relationships that go beyond just the normal, and that's completely, I think you're at a very normal stage.
Okay.
Right. Now that you've experienced a lot of different things, right? You've lived in different states. You've had different jobs. You've had different career ups and downs, right? And you've been pressed, right? You've been pressed. And that's a good thing, right? It's just like a good wine, those grapes have been pressed. And now, you're ready to have a good person to have dinner with, just like a good glass of wine.
Yeah. Yeah. No, you're right.
I don't drink wine because I don't like the taste, but
here's,
I heard.
My question is, and maybe this is a question to you, finding your tribe. Because, we as men and women, all of us shed our skin in our own way, and we have that pivot point. We become, more matured. I guess in some parts of my life, some people lose friends. They carry their core with them. I've seemed to have it hit extremes on almost every level, Dulio. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that because it's brought me closer to God. And it's brought me, I am more proud of who I am today. As I look back at these tapes and I'm like, I'm okay with that guy. But when I would look back at my tapes at Kiss, like that guy's trying too hard. Like, stop, Freddie, stop. I turn it on. You know what I mean? But now it's like I see the real me, on camera, or I hear the real me on tape. But as I lose that, that part of life and those old friends, my question is, okay, well, where, because we're all social. Where's my new people? Where's my new tribe? Where are they at? I'm not finding that, and so I'm at that lull period, for in many ways.
So, I think the important thing is to just be yourself. And as long as you're generating good energy, those people will find you.
Yeah.
Be it in a relationship with a woman, be it in a relationship with friends, you'll find those people and you'll start, realizing, hey, you know what? It's worth having you as a friend,
Yeah.
And, you got to be a good friend to have a good friend, right?
Yeah.
That's a basic adage. But you'll start meeting people more of quality in the circles that you meet, right?
Yeah.
I think that as men, it ultimately comes down to, looking for the mate, right? It's almost a primal thing, right?
It's almost in everything that we do, huh?
Yeah. It really is. It's reduced to the fact that we ultimately, and I think it's genetic because we want to not only mate, but we want to procreate, right? And I think that's part of our God-given privilege and and the blessing that we get. And so once we start realizing, hey, who can I, do this with? You start seeing that you want someone more of quality, right? You want a person that's more than just the low-hanging fruit that you've been used to in the past, And so now you have to, climb a little higher to get to the best fruit. And so, it's a process, and don't push it, it has to come naturally.
Yeah.
You can't sit there and say, okay, today I want to go out and, make a good friend, and it doesn't happen that way. Right.
But I, it's funny because like say I can go to like, an old bar, and it will say hi to old friends, and there's a cute girl there, but that, and there's that part of me that, says, all right, like let's go on a date or something. But there's a part of me that just says, you don't want that. And I just, and I just go home, and that's, this is my life now.
Yeah.
It's a weird period, but, you're right. You learn through these phases. You went from doing your thing, living in the, animal house, with your buddies when you were really young. And then you passed the bar exam, that was, you went from, night to day, and you became an attorney. And
yeah, I did meet my wife right around that period. So she had a very calming sense on me. I think she had almost like a grounding of
like your anchor.
Yeah. Yeah. She's a very special woman, as you know her. I was at the right time. I dated several women before her, and they were all quality women, right? I mean, there's nothing wrong with them. It was just me. I wasn't ready. I wasn't at the right stage. I wasn't at the right time. It wasn't right for me until I met my wife, and everything just seemed to gel. She was, different from the type of women that I had normally dated, and different than the women I had been in relationships with. And it just felt right. It centered me. And that's when I think I started to really work harder to become, more centered on what I really wanted to do in my life. Right? That's usually the case, right? Most men can, I think, divide their lives in between before I met my wife and after, because, and then we had our son very soon after, and so that just takes it to a whole different level, right? When you become this family man, and
you had a minivan.
I drove a minivan. Yeah. After having me and
Eric took it to the club one day.
After having a low-profile mini truck back in the 80s, I had a Nissan minivan. Yeah. I didn't know you had taken it to the club, by the way.
That was fun times.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Yeah, it takes a really good woman to anchor a man,
Yeah.
It really does. I want to ask you this. I want your insight on, our big, beautiful city, our city of Los Angeles, right? And LA has kind of had a rebirth in many ways, and it's changed a lot in the last 7 years. You go to any restaurant, you can go to even sushi. Yeah, the fanciest restaurants in LA. Who's working the kitchens? It's the Latinos, the Hispanics. It's, LA was the blood, sweat, and tears, and it was the Asian community, the Korean community, the Chinese community. And now it's become a global city ready for the Olympics in 2028. It answers only to the richest people. If you drive on, in downtown LA, the tallest building in LA is not US Bank Tower anymore. It's the other one, Korean flag. It has the Korean flag. And, I want to go to South Korea one day. I really do. It's a beautiful city. But imagine, we building the highest building in Seoul, South Korea, and putting the American flag on top. That's bizarre. LA will bend over and take anybody's money as it's become a global city. And everybody's been pushed out. The only people who can afford to buy a home are either really rich or they inherit. Imagine what it's going to be like, post-Olympics 2028. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
So LA, I had a professor in Northridge who, Dr. Rudy Acuna, who wrote a book called Community Under Siege. And he wrote this book back in, I think, the late 80s or early 90s. And it was a deep study of LA and everything that goes on in it and stuff. And, I think you've highlighted aspects that have been developing in the disparity of wealth, right? In that fact that, more and more people are getting pushed out, right? But remember, LA is huge, right? LA proper is, LA County is one of the largest counties, the second largest county in the United States. But LA City itself has various dimensions. Now, obviously, I think it reflects the fact that it's a diversified city, right? There's been so many people who have added to the tapestry of LA, and that, we've had an influx of money from Asian countries. There's no secret, right? They have wealth, right? And, and so when they come here, they bring their culture and something amazing. It's something that's beautiful. At the same time, it starts to infringe upon the character of what LA, used to look like, right? The LA of the glamorous, of the 40s and 50s, and then it became the streets of Hollywood where no one can really. Everybody used to go to see something, but nothing would really happen. And nothing was happening and stuff. But little by little, I think that the city itself is becoming, untenable for most people. Like you say, they can't live where they work anymore.
Right.
Most people come into the city, and that happens a lot in urban cities, right? For example, Mexico City. We were talking about Mexico City earlier, and Mexico City has the same problem, right? They have a very exclusive downtown area, and most people have to commute. But yeah, I agree with you. It's changing, and it's changing quickly. Money comes in, and and it takes over. But yeah, I still like LA.
I was thinking,
I love LA.
Yeah, me too.
I'm gonna write a song. I love LA.
There's no better place in the world. No matter where I go, I'll always try to come back here. I'll claw my way back if I have to. I was thinking about it, Dulio, and I go, okay, everyone's sharing their opinion right now on immigration right now, and who else more knowledgeable and better to ask this question than you?
Yeah, and note that I'm not an immigration attorney,
right?
But I do have strong opinions about the issue, and so go ahead.
Is there a common solution? What is your take? How would you handle this?
So I think that there is a very common and very easy solution. In fact, we had taken steps to solve some of the immigration crisis that was making such a was so unnerving during President Biden's presidency. They had come up with a immigration reform bill, right? That was co-sponsored, a bipartisan bill that was presented. Some Republican senators, very mainstream, very conservative senators, and Democratic senators came in and wrote this bill that solved the law, that began to address the problems that we have in this country. One is we need border security, right? We can only be a country if we control who comes in and out, right? So that's the thing that I think that I don't think any reasonable person agrees that there should be open borders, right? I don't even think the most liberal Hillary Clinton or Kamala Harris or whoever you want to say believed in complete open borders. So I think that bill addressed that issue of securing the border, more money for border enforcement and border retention, and it also began to deal with the issue of people who are here. We have to deal with that, and that's a big problem in this that we still have to resolve. the answer is not incarcerating, right? Building more prisons. There's only people who are making money off of the cash for jail type businesses that are arising in Florida and other states now. And so that's not the solution. We have to start looking at immigrants in a different light, right? They've been portrayed in a very poor light by our president, and he's done a horrible disservice to the working people who are here. Granted, there are criminals. Everybody agrees. Let's take them out. Take them out. Identify who they are and take them out. But you can't sit there and incarcerate people like that. They did it during Mansonar. I'm sure you're familiar with what happened during World War II, where they interred thousands of Japanese people just because they were of Japanese descent, right? And they kept them at Santa Anita, right by my house.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. They made Santa Anita and they made another place up north called Mansonar into these temporary prisons, and they took all the people who were of Japanese descent, dentists, doctors, gardeners, the list goes on, business people. They just left their businesses. They left their homes. They told them to take a few things, and they were sent to Santa Anita and incarcerated there until the war was over. And then they were released with no, we're sorry.
Yeah.
Oops, kind of thing.
Happened.
They were just released, and a lot of those people lost everything that they had, right? Well, they're doing it again. They're doing it again. And when we look back at Mansonar and the Japanese internment issues, we say, how could that have happened, in our country, right? And a lot of these Japanese Americans who fought in World War I, right?
Yeah.
A lot of them were Americans, right? But because they looked Japanese, because they were of Japanese descent, boom, let's incarcerate them. No due process. No, let's look at what you've done or what you're doing. Just you're being incarcerated. They're doing that now, right? We have people who are actually citizens who are being held, and it takes them a few weeks or several days to identify, that you're actually a citizen. You just looked brown, or you looked like you were from Iran or Iraq or somewhere, Middle East. And so, boom, they take you. And so something needs to be done. We need to be able to deal with some of the people who came here as children in the Dreamers program that was working fine. You had a lot of people here. I mean, my dad came here illegally to this country from Guatemala. And, he became a U.S. citizen, but, that's cutting it pretty close to,
realistically, what is that process like? I mean, how long does it take? And I mean, how hard is it to?
Well, it's as hard as they want to make it, you can get on a track of becoming a U.S. citizen relatively quickly. We have some family members in our family that have, were on visa programs, and then became residents, and then applied for citizenship, and they did it within the course of a couple of years. And so, so it's hitting really close to home for a lot of people, right? Mm-hmm. Obviously, not so much in the Midwest and right. In the heart of the country, but in the borders in New York and California, where there's a lot of immigrants. It's hitting a lot of people hard.
But I hear that Latinos are showing up in states like Iowa now, and there's Alabama, and like parts that you wouldn't think that you would see, our people. But it's so funny because they're now Oklahoma.
There's work. Wherever there's work, you'll find a Hispanic.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Because that's what we came here to do. That's what and the myth is that we use up too much of the resources of this country. On the contrary, Hispanics pay into in taxes and in wages. A lot of Hispanic people that don't have Social Security, yet they pay into the system by their employment. and they pay taxes, and they pay, and they put businesses, and they purchase homes, and they become part of this country. Yet so it needs to be dealt with. They say approximately 11 million people. I think there's more, like 15 million, but who knows? And we need to address the people that are here. There's obviously people that shouldn't be here, right? And we should deal with them. And that's why we have a system. We have judges. We have immigration courts. We have a process that should be followed. And this country has been built by immigrants.
Right.
This country is a great country when given an opportunity to show its greatness. Mm-hmm. We had some people say, make America great again. Well, we built this country after World War II, right? Immigrants coming in from Europe, from Ireland, from Mexico, from other places. We came and built this country, right? And so we've made it what it is today. And so we continue to add to that, right? We continue to add. And so as long as we continue to work in subtraction and division instead of addition, I think we're going to be in some problems here. But again, this is a time that's going to pass. It's going to pass.
I've never thought about my ethnicity so much, until I left corporate radio, and I look back and I was trying to figure it out. How many high level executives are of my Hispanic or Latino? And sometimes I wonder, I go, because I feel like I have tried so hard, in my career, always fought against the grain. I've seen other people just get jobs easy. And I've never said, oh, it's because they're this. I always just felt like I was doing something wrong and they were doing something, they must be smarter. They must have it figured out. Did I politic the right way? Did I do it the right way? Some questions never get answered, but that does come across, let me see. Are there other people who look like me? And when I go look, the answer is really no.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's true across the board. And a lot of it has to do with just opportunity, And unfortunately, it is a land of opportunity, but there is glass ceilings all over the place. I know in radio, it's the scenarios are changing, right? Spanish language media, you're aware of the fact, the numbers that they pull in, right? Sponsors see that, right? And they want to get their word out, right? And so that's important, right? When they start seeing the fact that the Hispanic market has something to offer, right? And so they start having Spanish language DJs, and then all of a sudden, we got a Spanish language guy who does the mix. And then all of a sudden we got an agent or we got someone who does sales, and then they move up and then they get promoted. And so little by little, we'll come back, right? Hispanics are we're so many of, it's hard to just say, from Mexico, from Guatemala, Central America, South America, all over the Caribbean. And so we have time and we have proximity on our side, So
the times they are changing.
Yeah, they are changing.
We haven't talked about your office yet, and about what you've been doing, and what you've been passionate about, and what do you tell? I guess tell everybody what you do.
So my practice over the last, I've been on my own now for about the last almost 15 years now. But what I do primarily is I represent injured workers. That has been one of my passions. I think it's a rollover from when I used to be very pro-labor in the United Farm Workers movement. But injured workers get a really short stick. The truly injured workers in this state, in the workers' compensation system, always get the short stick, right? And it's the insurance agents, the insurance agencies that have so much money, it's ridiculous, right? They have almost as much money as the pharmaceutical industry in this country. And so the insurance companies, they just think that every case that is filed is fraud. Right? They look at almost every case as, oh, that's fraud. That's exaggeration. They're not really not injured. When in fact, you have, these workforce people who do heavy labor work, they're going to get injured. Injured workers truly need in these times an advocate. They need someone to fight for them, and that's what I do.
Not funny. You kind of come full circle. Like you were going to go into insurance, and you're
now I'm fighting against insurance. Yeah, wow. But the fact of the matter is that that's my main area. Okay. I would say that's about 80% of what I and my staff do, and another maybe 15% is personal injury. Your normal auto accidents and stuff like that. It's not anything glamorous. I don't enjoy doing that, but I'll do it to help people. It's usually my clients who get into an auto accident or something, and I help them. And then 5% of what I do is criminal work. I practiced criminal law when I first came out of law school up in Bakersfield, a very conservative county. And I learned to kind of really understand and enjoy the fray of criminal law, the relationships with the district attorneys, the judges.
What does fray mean?
The fray is like the battle.
Okay.
The mind battle that goes on between a criminal defense attorney and the district attorney, right? And so I really enjoy that. It's something that's fun for me. I do it kind of for kind of a diversion from my regular practice.
Yeah.
I do a lot of DUIs. There's just my clients and the people that know me and that come to me.
Yeah.
I get a lot of DUIs. I get some spousal abuses. Sometimes women against men. You'd be surprised.
Right.
I get some drug possession cases, the small ones. The big guys who do crime for a business.
I think of like Everybody Loves Raymond. I'm like, it all started with that episode. The women beating him. Would be yelling at him. Poor guy.
One of my favorite programs, by the way.
Is it?
I love Raymond. Everybody Loves Raymond is one of my favorites. Irma says I watch it too much. It always comes out at like between 9 and 11 on a certain channel, and I'm always watching it. But yeah, so the criminal law work I do. And then I also do some pro bono work, which is I do it for free. Okay. And I represent at-risk youth.
Oh, okay.
And I don't do enough of it because I don't get the cases referred to me like I used to. But I still, every once in a while, will find a youth who's at risk and is in the criminal system and needs help. And so I become more of an attorney, but more of a counselor.
Nice.
Trying to help them out and stuff. Some of the organizations that I worked with in the past kind of focused on working with at-risk youth. And so I do some of that too.
Did you perform at the Hollywood Bowl?
I did.
Okay. I was like, did he say that, or was it a photo, or what?
I have a great picture of it too.
Okay. So how did that happen?
So,
if you want to take your jacket off,
oh, thanks.
Yeah. Just make yourself at home.
Thank you.
Plus, it looks more relaxed on camera too when people take your jacket off.
There you go. So I'll jump real quick to the mariachi, but I have some stories growing up.
Yeah,
I started to play music, but in the mid '80s, I joined a mariachi group.
Okay.
That was forming of students at Cal State Northridge, and we became very popular, right? Because we were all students.
Yeah.
Our director was a professor. And so, and we practiced our tunes that we knew about maybe at first, like maybe 20 songs. And we used to play them all the time.
That's a lot though, isn't it?
Not really.
Oh, okay.
Mariachis on average know anywhere between 1,500 and 2,000 songs.
Wow.
Yeah.
Really?
A versatile mariachi that they're professionals.
Wow.
The guys who are out there playing. Between all of the players, they know a lot of songs.
Wow.
But anyway, maybe that a little too much. Maybe somewhere, I know it's over 1,000 songs. But anyway, we started to get really popular and playing at university events, and we started to, work a lot. Thursdays, Fridays, Saturdays, 6 hours, Sunday, 5 hours. I was making pretty decent money, you know.
What would you play? What instrument?
I played the guitarrón, which is the big bass instrument.
Okay, yeah.
And so I never knew how to play that. I never had played it before, and I was taught by Beto Ruiz, the professor, and I fell in love with the instrument. It's fretless. It's like the violin, and you play in octaves.
What does fretless mean?
Fretless means no frets. Like a guitar has frets.
Oh, those sections that.
The sections.
Yeah.
And a violin doesn't.
Oh,
right?
okay, yeah.
And the guitarrón doesn't. So it's a fretless instrument, and it's played in octaves. So you're pulling 2 strings at a time. The same. Okay. So 2 E's, 2 A's, and it's a beautiful sound. It's very rich, and I fell in love with the bass. And
it's almost like a bass guitar.
It's a bass guitar. You play the bass notes on it, and so anyway, so as a mariachi, we started working. We started becoming very popular, and back, I think it was in 1985 or 86, we got invited to a musical festival at that all kinds of musical groups were performing at the Hollywood Bowl. So we have this iconic picture where we're on stage, and the whole group is there and stuff. And we all have a copy of it in our offices or homes. And it was a great experience playing at the bowl. Man, the acoustics were amazing. Never had played in something like that where I hit my bass. I had a microphone, but I would hit my bass and it would just go. I could just hear it. It was amazing. I can just imagine when it's like, you know, it was like 3/4 full. But I can just imagine the Hollywood Bowl filled, and you know, someone playing. I've seen several concerts there, but one in particular was Miles Davis at the Hollywood Bowl.
Wow, really?
And yeah,
I just had a guest who, as a kid, went to go see Miles Davis.
Yeah, Miles Davis was a different cat, man. He would turn his back on the audience. He didn't care about the audience. Yeah, that showed his disdain for the audience. He was just all music. 100%, you know, some of the best trumpet playing, you know, jazz that exists. But yeah, he was. I saw him at the Hollywood Bowl. I saw Earth, Wind and Fire at the Hollywood Bowl. Great concert. Yeah, great concert. One of the best concerts.
And you still play now, because I just saw you at your 4th of July party playing with
different band. This is my garage band.
Okay.
And we play different styles. I never really play. I listened to, you know, rock and roll my whole life.
Yeah.
I grown up in Bakersfield, a lot of country, some rock, a lot of Spanish music and stuff. But I never really played rock and roll. Right. I grew up in a community there in Delano where I'd get my hair cut. My barber from Delano was my guy. His name is Henry Mendoza. He cut my hair the very first time when I was 9. And so I grew up getting my hair cut by him, but he was also a musician, mariachi, and just played music. So there was always a guitar in the shop, and someone would come by and they would play, he would play. And I grew up and I just loved music from a get-go. Right? But my first love of instrument was I fell in love with the drum set.
Really?
I was 13 years old, and I used to walk home from from school and walk by the music store, the only music store in Delano, and I saw this drum set there, candy red CB700 set. It was what kind of symbol did it have? I think it was Zitlin cymbals. Anyway, I would sit there and I would play this drum set, like, you know, the guy would ask me to leave, right? Because I would just do it almost every day.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And but I told my dad, and it cost like $350, right? And my dad's like, no way, you know, this and this. And I'm like, Dad, please. So he told me, you work all summer and we'll see. So that summer, I mean, I cleaned, I was the manager of dust. I would dust the whole furniture store and the floors and the furniture. And so, sure enough, I came home one day. I was outside playing, and then I came home, and then my sister and my parents were in the living room, and then they're like, had a suspicious look on their face, right? But then they tell me, go get something for me in the garage. Yeah. And I'm like, what's going on? Yeah. You know, was suspicious, right? And so I opened the garage door, and there was this candy red CB700 set just set up for me in my garage. And I'm like, I just remember being the happiest kid in the world, man. And I remember I sat down, and my dad's like, okay, play something, you know. And my hands were like trembling, and I couldn't even play anything after having hit that drum set so many times in the store. I was so nervous, and so I'm over there trying to play something and stuff. But I would put on my big old headphones, and turn on the album. Uh-huh. You remember vinyl, right? Yeah. And listen to songs like from Earth, Wind, and Fire, Commodores, and sit there and just drum out, right? And just some of the best hours spent in that garage, just, you know, drumming it out, right? And learning how to play just by ear, basically, you know? Yeah. Then one day my dad tells me, I have a client of mine in the furniture store that has a band, and they need a drummer. I'm like, wow. What are you talking about, Dad? And he's like, yeah, you play the drums, they need a drummer. So I told him about you. He's coming over to the house tomorrow. And I'm like, Dad, I can't play with some band. And then they're a Mexican band. Dad, I don't play Mexican music. Come on. I play, you know, Earth, Wind, and Fire. Yeah. And my dad was my dad, man. My dad was just jump in the pool all the time. God bless the way he was, because that influenced me a lot. I'm a go-getter because of him. But anyway, so sure enough, this guy shows up, right? This Mexican guy shows up and looks at my drum set. He goes, oh, very nice, Spanish and stuff. And I'm talking to him, and then he tells me, yeah, our drummer's left, and so we need a drummer. Got a gig coming up this weekend, and it's like it's at a local bar in Delano. So I'm like, it sounded interesting, right? But I'm like, I don't know how to play music and stuff. He goes, it's easy, you know, 2/4 beats, you know, dump, 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 cumbia, boleros, small romantic songs, you know, 4/4 beats, you know. You can do it. You can do it. He talked me up, and sure enough, that Saturday came around. My mom had to drive me in her Impala, and her Oldsmobile. She drove me to this bar in Delano, right, in the seedy part of town, right. Yeah. My mom's like, "Aquí es," you know, and I'm like, "This is it." It was called a bar in Delano called Los Cocos, and so I'm not even 14 yet. I'm like 13 and a half, almost 14. I'd be at 14 in October, and this was like in August. I remember getting off and, you know, going, and the guy came and helped me and unloaded my drums and set them up in the bar. And my mom was like, "Okay, I'm leaving you." And I'm like, "Oh." So next thing you know, I'm left all alone with this guy in a bar. It's early. Guys start coming in the band, and other people start coming to the bar and stuff. So we start kind of warming up, and they start, you know. Next thing you know, about an hour and a half later, he goes, "Okay, we're gonna play," you know. And I'm like, all nervous and stuff, and I play my first song, and he eased me into a simple 2/4 beat, you know. I started doing rolls. It was like a little ranchera kind of song, and people are dancing, and I'm playing. And it's the greatest thing in the world. I'm having so much fun. I'm in a bar, right? I'm watching people drink and dance and women. And I'm like sitting there just going, oh my goodness, this is the greatest thing ever, right? Well, we played for like 3 hours that night. And I was like on top of the world. My dad came to pick me up. We were putting my drum set away and stuff. And the guy walks up to me and gives me $50. And I was just... Yeah. I'm getting paid for this? Yeah. I go, no way am I getting paid for this. I just had so much fun. I thought I was going to pay him or something, you know? Gave me $50, right? That's what started my love of playing music. I soon thereafter in high school formed a band. And so we had, our director was a student teacher at Delano High School. And we started becoming popular. And we started working and getting paid, right? And so I had a high school band from my sophomore year all the way through graduation and stuff. So music has always been a part of me. Then that's when I came to Northridge. And then I joined. I didn't know how to play mariachi music. I had listened to it, knew some songs that I'd listened to, but I never played in a mariachi, never played a guitarrón. But I was already musically inclined, and so I learned to play it and started working as a mariachi.
When you started in mariachi, what was the one thing you learned about mariachi that you didn't know about them because you were new to it?
So the outfits. I had to get used to wearing the outfits.
Okay.
I always, when I was alone, I'd feel so out of place. But as soon as I was with a group, I felt like, we belong.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
The vast amount of repertoire that they have, mariachi, true mariachi players, they know a ton of songs, a ton of songs. I think I estimated too much, but probably at least between 500 and 1,000 songs. The old school good mariachis, right? Like I said, we build our repertoire from like 10 to 20 songs to 30 to 40. And we started playing a lot of stuff. We had different elements in the band. And we played for 11 years, made money, had fun, created a brotherhood with the guys, that are to this day, some of my closest friends,
I find that interesting that you found that passion of being a musician, but you didn't have to wrestle with the fact that you might have wanted to take that route as a career versus.
I did. In fact, my dad was like, he used to hate the fact that I played with the mariachi. He liked the band when I was in Delano.
Yeah.
But when I started playing the mariachi at Northridge, he's like, what are you wasting your time for? You got to study and do. And my dad hated the idea that I was a mariachi, right? And all during law school, I was in the mariachi band. And, my dad would always, frown upon my involvement in the mariachi, right? Well, fast forward, I'm an attorney. My dad we'd go, he'd always be with me when he was living with me and stuff towards the end of his life. We'd go somewhere and my dad would introduce me. This is my son. He's a mariachi. He wouldn't even say he's an attorney. He would, and he played as a mariachi. He was more proud of that, I think, than me being an attorney,
Yeah.
So it kind of went full circle with him, Because even though my dad wasn't Guatemalan, he loved Mexico. He lived in Mexico City for 5 years. So he learned to love Mexico and the soccer team. Oh my goodness. He lived and died by the soccer team. And so, so music has always been there for me.
Yeah.
When I thought I wanted to, music is a hard industry to be in, a lot of musicians don't ever go anywhere, don't make much and stuff. It's hard. It's a hard life, but the passion, and I think I'll always continue to play music, with my cousins. I played with the mariachi every once in a while. I had to go get a suit, that I didn't have a suit anymore. And, we had an event for the professor who was retiring after almost 40-something years as a professor. He was going to retire, and so we were going to make a special concert, and they wanted the whole mariachi. And I didn't have a suit, so I had to go out and get him a suit made.
Wow.
And so I have a suit now.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
There's a lesson, though, isn't there? Like a lesson in that, in being able to, do both your passions, and have that side thing, because I think that's good for mental,
Yeah, it's very important. You always need to have something. Some people call it a hobby, other people call it a passion, but it's a good balance to have. I know that when I play the guitar, that's one of my favorite instruments to play too. And when I just have time and just sit there and just want to unwind and just start pecking at the guitar and just playing some old songs that I know, and just the soothing rhythms and coming up with new chords, and just, it's so relaxing.
That may be small, the way it sounds, but it's so important because some people hit the gym, they need the gym, to reset. Some people, are musicians on the side. Some people, coloring books. The adults now do that, and some people paint, and they need that outlet, or else they're chucking somebody to death on the side of the freeway,
Yeah, I think everybody has a certain creative outlet.
Right.
It's the left part of the brain, so to speak, that I think everybody has in there. I know I can't paint, draw, if my life depended on it.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny because I was watching a YouTube video of a guy who just said, okay, grab a piece of paper and then follow this. Do this line here.
Yeah.
Do this line there.
Yeah.
Do this line over here. Color this in. Do that. Next thing you know, for the first time ever, I painted a figure that looked like something.
Okay. Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my goodness, I just did that.
Yeah.
But it's because he walked me through every
so
little
you're
step.
saying you're not that artist who like hangs from some kind of tightrope and splashes paint. You've seen those. It's the most ridiculous.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So let's talk about one of my first ventures into advertising my business back in the day. I think you'll remember this.
Oh.
I had an office in Santa Ana at the time, and we were expanding to Riverside. And so we opened up this Riverside office. So lo and behold, I decided to have this grand idea of having an event. That's part of my dad. I could see my dad, all over this event. Inviting the community out to the office, having free tacos and free advice, and just have everybody come out. And then we announced it on the radio a bunch of times, and we put some flyers out and stuff. Well, lo and behold, the day rolls around, right? And I was going to have a raffle, right? Yeah. I had bought this TV, right? And so I just got it like at Walmart or something, and I bought this 18-inch TV or something. And so I'm driving in my car and have the TV with me, and was early to go meet you, and we were going to go get the DJ.
Yeah.
So I picked you up, and we went over to
Lewis's house.
DJ Lewis.
Yeah.
Right? And Lewis was dead to the world. He was not answering. We were knocking. And I was on a time limit because I had to go because I had, the program beginning, right? Yeah. So I had to get to the office. And so I'm like, Freddy, and he goes, I don't know, dude. I'm calling him and he's not answering, and his car's here, and and I'm like, oh, Fred, what should we do then? And finally he wakes up, and he doesn't look like in any condition DJ. And I'm like, I gotta go, guys. I gotta go. And so we come up with a great plan. I'm going to take his car.
Which is a Nissan 350Z or something like that.
It was a 350Z. And you were going to take my car. So I go, well, I'll take the TV then. And so I put it in the Z, right? And I take off. I really don't know where he lives very much, but I'm driving. I'm kind of to the major streets. And I get like 3 blocks, right? And all of a sudden the car runs out of gas. I'm left with it, and I'm like, oh my goodness, I can't believe this. And I'm so mad, and I'm like,
it was not even a block away.
It was pretty close, right? So I'm like stressing out, time constraints. So I'm like, let me go back and get to Freddy. And
so you leave the car there.
I leave the car there. I come get you, and I'm like, Freddy, we gotta go. Let's go, man. Let's get that. And we got the DJ equipment loaded and stuff, and so we drive. I go back to the car. And someone had stolen the TV. Someone had stolen the TV. This is like 9 a.m. Someone literally in the 20-minute span of me walking to that house, taking to you.
It's a nice neighborhood.
It's a nice neighborhood. And someone stole the TV. And I was like, oh my goodness, I can't believe that. So now, I just got to go over there. Let's go. So we get the DJ equipment and we jump in the car, and
yeah.
Lewis is like coming to life and stuff, and put water in his hair. And so we get over to the place, we set up, and the taco guy was across the street. Remember? It was a taco place that was going to give the tacos for me at a special price. And so you guys had set up the music over there, and then I was across the street, and people were going to come, and we had this great event planned. Well, after about a couple of hours, man, no one's coming, right? No one's coming for the free tacos or the music or nothing. Every once in a while, a person would come across the street. I remember I had one woman come up to me and say, "Hi," and I'm like, "Hi, yeah, you here for the free advice?" And she's like, "Yeah, I want to talk about my husband." And I thought she goes, "He's never wants to go do anything around the house." And she starts complaining for about 15 minutes. So I'm thinking, okay, I have a divorce case going here. I'm going to go ahead and sign her up, right? Yeah. So then I'm like, okay, you want to go ahead and sign up and you want to file for divorce? She goes, no, I don't want a divorce. I just wanted the free taco. Because I had the coupons. So I had to give her one. I'm so like, oh, okay, here you go. And she went and then she went and got her taco. And I had a few people show up, but no, not what we expected and stuff. It was not the greatest. I thought the radio station would have provided more of an incentive for people to come and stuff, even though we advertised it well on the radio, but just not enough people came. But I remember I still went and on one of the breaks, I went to a nearby Walmart or Kmart or something, and I bought another TV because I didn't want to lie. I advertised it. And I remember not enough people buying or having tickets. There was only like 8 tickets. So I just, on the draft, I'm like, okay, the winner is Irma Rivera, my wife. So I took it back and got my money back for buying that darn TV. But
oh, wow,
what a crazy event.
You would think, if this is Etiwanda, neighborhood of Rancho Cucamonga, and you would think that at 9 a.m. on a Saturday, that wouldn't happen.
That was too funny. That was a fun-filled day.
Well, at least, you got to experience a little bit of, being friends with Luis, why have you invested in me?
Well, I'll tell you why. Very easy response there. One, I love passion. Mm. I love to see people who have passion. You were very young. You weren't the sharpest tool, but you had passion. And I love that. I saw passion in you and what you did. And I knew that at some point or another, you would do something amazing. And I said, I'm all in. I spoke life into you from the very beginning. I always encouraged you. And to this day, I think that greater things are going to come from what you're doing. And it's just a matter of you staying true to who you are. And you'll see that it'll be something that you don't even expect, right? Keep humble, keep working, keep your passion, and you're going to do amazing things. So knowing that is why I always, I think I was your number one fan back when you were in the garage in high school.
I remember that one time. It was 4th of July. At the time you said them, I didn't know exactly what you're trying to tell me, but you said 2 things. Number one, it's a whirlwind, you're moving, make sure you keep your center. Make sure you keep your center. And the second thing you said was, you shared a story about Icarus, the Greek. I want you to, when you told me that, like, what did you mean?
So, a lot of times you can tell the character of a man of how he acts when he's alone in a big city. Because everything that you want in terms of the world, you can find, right? And so, I wanted to make sure that, you didn't go off and let your situation put you in places that, didn't compromise who you were and just risk what you had, right? And so I think you handled it well. The issues that came up had nothing to do with you as a DJ, as a professional. I think that it was just the system that was in place. If you have if you're at odds with a program director like you were, right? It's hard to buck any type of system like that.
Right.
I think you were bringing in new ideas. I think you were bringing in, and you were a threatening presence to this person. And so they were all status quo, right? They want to stick to the pattern, cookie cutter. And corporations a lot of times do that, you know. They're not ready to change. They're not open to change. So I think you were going into this all alone, really, you know. You know, you had some family in Texas, but not real close to where you were going to be at. And so, you know, I just wanted you to be prepared for everything that was going to be, you know, you were going to see, right? You were going to be exposed to a lot. And so I try to just give you grounding words to try to keep you in the right frame of mind, you know? And everything that happened. I know that for a while it really bothered you, right? Yeah. But I think you handled it well because it was a tremendous fall, right? And most people don't get up from that, right? And you did. So that's a testament to not only your maturity and not only your perseverance, but your character, you know? Part of the reasons that you are who you are is because someone prayed, right? I think your dad was always there, your mom, you know? There were people that were always pulling for you. And so I think you knew that. You know, when the chips are down, you had people there for you, right? So one of the things that I delight in now that I'm considered older, I'm 62 years old, right? Considered an old guy now, right? When I meet younger people and interact with the younger people, even though I have a young soul, I think.
You do, yeah.
But I try to always impart and speak life into people. Because that's what a lot of young people are missing these days. I do it a lot when I do a lot of Lyft and Uber rides, and usually it's younger people. Yeah. These days, almost everybody's younger than me, but a lot of times they're young people, right? And so I know that Lyft or Uber is not their main goal, right? So I always try to spend the short period of time that I have with them, 30 minutes, 50 minutes, an hour and a half, when I make long drives, to speak life into them, to hear them, to find out what they want to do, what their dreams and aspirations are, and then speak life to that. Try to give them a solid plan to get there, you know, in whatever little time I have. Sometimes it works. Sometimes I make great connections. Yeah. You know, it's so easy to speak to strangers that, you know.
Most people's guard is down in an Uber ride.
Yeah. And
it's
so
a great place to talk to somebody.
And so I was telling my wife that it's kind of like my, I was calling it my Lyft ministry. Yeah. Because it's what I did for a while there. I learned to not drive when I had to go to like Santa Ana or downtown LA or to Van Nuys. I have to go to courts out there. And I learned that it was better for me to just take a Lyft. I don't use Uber as much because Lyft was a better value. Yeah, well, I think that's kind of changed now.
Yeah, they're the same now.
Yeah. But I did Lyft because I am kind of cheap. But and I would take the regular fares always, you know, and so, you know, you get into some kind of weird cars sometimes. But for the most part, you know, it's good people. Yeah, it's good people.
Yeah. You
know, and so that time I had to speak to people, you know, a lot of times people use their time for talking on the phone or for, you know, doing some of the work and stuff. I felt it was more important for me to invest in those people that were driving me around, you know, what little I can add. Sometimes I couldn't connect. You know, I remember one time I got into on a ride from Santa Ana back here, and the guy was kind of strange. Didn't talk to me much, and I'm trying to, you know, ask him how's he doing, what's going on, what's he up to, when did he start driving. Then he just starts talking about how he's so depressed, and he starts talking about thinking about killing himself straight out of the bat. I'm in the back seat and this guy's driving and he starts talking heavy like that. Yeah. And I'm like, wow. I go, man, that's heavy, man. Those feelings are, universal. A lot of people, want to take a break from their reality and stuff, but you got to think about, there's people I'm sure in your life. And I spent the whole time being like a crisis interventionalist because that guy wasn't good. And he was high. I could smell the weed on him and stuff. And so that didn't help the situation because his eyes were all, shot, and he just looked like he was out of it. I was scared that ride home. And then he was driving a little erratic at times, and so I was like, "Oh my goodness, what am I getting into?"
Yeah.
But he got me home. I spoke to him, and hopefully he's doing better now.
How did you feel about the conversation? How it went with him? Any spark?
He wasn't. No, I can't say. I think the most I try to do with him is just to tell him, "Hey, it's going to be a better day tomorrow."
Some people just want to be. They just want to talk. They want to connect with somebody, even if it's a stranger.
Yeah.
As long as they
sometimes it's better that they're a stranger because there's no judgment. There is not your parents. It's not your family. It's some friend that's going to hold it against you. It's just a total stranger.
Yeah. And
it's like you're almost relieving yourself emotionally to someone,
Right.
And it's very cathartic for people, I know there's been a few times when it's been the reverse for me, where a driver will really speak to me and whatever mood I'm in or what's going on with me and stuff. And it's a universal human connection that we're all looking for.
Well, Dulio, you've been you've been living a pretty incredible life.
I'm blessed.
The amount of growth from this point to that point, you're kind of all over the spectrum. And I think that it helps you connect with different types of people, different age groups, and I've learned a lot from you, Dulio, and I appreciate all the support since I was a kid, and man, it's, and here's, I guess, the big announcement that we should, maybe brought up from the beginning, but you are our first official sponsor.
Yes, sir.
For the podcast. How
yes, sir.
Freaking awesome is that?
Law Offices of Dulio Chavez.
Yay! We're here now, and this is the beginning of something really, big. And Dulio, you believed in me since day one, so I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you, Dulio.
Freddie, I know that every dollar that I invest is going to come back 100-fold in what you're doing. So I believe in you. I love you, right?
Love you too.
As a brother. And I just wish the best for you, and just continue to and shine and inspire people, and just follow your passions, and everything will come to a fruition.
Okay, last piece of advice you want to share that you've learned about your life, an important lesson on life. It could be something small, it could be something big. Like what is the some just good advice, good knowledge that you can drop.
Continue to always try to make the better version of yourself. Never be satisfied. There's always more growth. There's always more to experience. There's always more money to make. There's always more if that's what you want. You want it, go for it.
Kind of like you learning about math on your own time, watching those YouTube videos.
Yeah, it's never too late. And if you have something that you fear, go for it.
And finally, when you go on a world tour, where can we find you perform live? That's cool though. But
so
Dulio,
we're playing at our family reunion. We have a captive audience. Awesome. But anyway, thank you very much, Freddy. I appreciate the time spending with you. It was a pleasure. I could see us doing this over sushi lunch or dinner. But thank you.